She was warned. She was given an explanation. Nevertheless, she persisted.
Hi, everyone. So, this is tough. The past few weeks have been tough. Let's be real, the past few months have been tough. The past 2 years have been tough for most of us. Not just in the United States, because what's happening in the United States affects all of the world, both politically and culturally. And it feels like it just keeps getting worse. Now, both Heather, when she was still one of the co-hosts of this podcast, and Liz have wanted us to do an episode on Me Too for quite some time now. And I've always felt overwhelmed by the mere thought of it, because I've always kind of felt like I need more time to process things and more distance to what is going on in our culture at the moment. And also because I feel like I cannot fulfill the roles that I usually have in this podcast when it comes to this subject. Because usually I feel like we fulfill two roles. We're either intellectual to analyze things critically, or we are, sarcastic feminist bitches who make snarky remarks about how fucked up things are, because we all need some comic relief every now and then. But when it comes to Me Too, I feel like I just can't fulfill either of these roles. I have a pretty dark sense of humor. Everyone who knows me knows this. But in this case, I just can't joke about it. It's just not fucking funny. And I cannot be a composed, rational, intellectual, and academic about it, because there are just so many emotions involved in this for so many women and queer people, but also for me personally. And I just wanted to get some distance. And now the Me Too movement is 1 year old. And the thing is, distance and space to think about it is a luxury that I apparently won't get. Because the past 2 weeks, it's gotten to a point where it's impossible for me to not say anything anymore, even if my voice is as shaky as it is right now. And also we will probably do an episode on Me Too in the future, where we'll dissect in detail what's been going on for this whole year, what it means, all of that. Today, I'm just going to talk about how I feel, because I know that so many of you feel similar things too. When you're listening to this, it's very likely that Brett Kavanaugh, serial sexual assaulter, has been confirmed as a Supreme Court judge. The highest court in the United States of America, which is the most powerful country in the world, and also a country currently run, or a country whose president currently is a self-professed serial sexual assaulter. So, like many of you, I've been livid since November 2016. And all of my fury exorbitantly increased because of what is going on right now. As you all know, I'm an Austrian, and in Austria a lot of shit is happening politically too, amongst other things, to women and women's rights and women's rights organizations. And I should be furious about that. But for 2 weeks now, all the news and media I consume are about Dr. Blasey Ford's hearing, Brett Kavanaugh, and what it all means. And I just don't have the mental energy or space to deal with anything else right now. So the past few weeks have been very difficult for me. I've been feeling very emotional, and I try to dissect my feelings and talk about it. And I think it's important to do that as feminists, because gender politics and sexual politics always affect us very personally. And I think it's okay to be emotional about shit, and I think it's important to talk about it. Also because if Dr. Blasey Ford has shown us something, is that there's nothing more powerful than vulnerability, nothing more brave, and also nothing more important for solidarity and collective fevered fury. Like many sexual assault survivors, women, queer people right now, I feel immensely triggered and re-traumatized, and I also feel this overwhelming sense of injustice that makes me so furious. So there's a lot of righteous anger that I think many of us feel right now. And I would like to talk about this anger for a second. So yesterday, I listened to a podcast called Why Is This Happening? And more precisely, I listened to the most current episode with Rebecca Traister, who just wrote a book about women and anger and how we can utilize that anger politically. And I will also link to that book and to that episode in the show notes, so you can all listen to it and read it. And Rebecca tells the story of a woman who was so furious about the outcome of the 2016 US election that the moment Trump was elected, she promised herself that she will never again move out of the way for a white man when she's walking down the street. And that might sound like a very small and insignificant thing, but to me, this is a metaphor of what is going on culturally right now. Because women are pissed. We've just had enough. And it's moments like these that politicize us. And as painful as all of this is, there's something incredibly powerful that is happening. Now, the shit that women have been putting up with for centuries is coming to light right now, and it's hard to deal with, and it's even harder to again and again get the message that it doesn't matter because the men in power don't fucking care, and their ambitions are more important than our physical and sexual integrity and our mental health. But you know what? Women have been dealing with this for centuries, and we can handle another week, another month, another year. We can't even handle another 5 years of this shit. What's happening is this. Men like Trump or Kavanaugh unwillingly are bringing about a whole generation of women who won't fucking move out of the way anymore. This is what you get. When I watched the Brett Kavanaugh hearing a week ago, I witnessed the purest performance of male entitlement that I've ever seen. You know, all of his entitled, whiny anger and his authentic shock and surprise about the fact that there is the slightest chance that he might not get something that he really wants just because of a woman. Men like him apparently aren't used to be held accountable. But it's time they get used to it. Because what I also saw when I watched the hearing is the last frantic gasp of patriarchy. So I think there's something incredibly powerful about the fevered fury that we all feel right now. But we also need to think about how to use it collectively. And that brings me to the second thing I want to say. I want this to be the thing that you take away from the fact that a comedically unqualified, idiotic man like Trump can rise to power. As women, we are fed the idea that we're not enough from such an early age. We know that we're not enough before we know who we are. We're not pretty enough, we're not skinny enough, we're not clever enough, we're not educated enough, not brilliant enough, not charming enough, not quiet enough, not loud enough, not friendly enough, not determined enough, not ambitious enough, not laid back enough, not strong enough, not prepared enough, whatever the fuck. And we've learned this from such an early age that we believe it. You know, it's the position from which we experience the world. When we look in the mirror, we don't see someone who looks like someone who can run a business or a country. We don't see someone who looks like a boss or a chancellor or a president or a Supreme Court judge. Also because up to this point, we did not really have the necessary role models to be able to see that. But here's the thing. If a raging idiot like Trump can become the president of the United States, if a Brett Kavanaugh can be a Supreme Court judge, so can you. There's no way you wouldn't do a better job than this stupid asshole parade does. So now's the time to start that business, get that degree, and run for office. I'm dead serious. Let's overthrow patriarchy. I'm sick of this shit. And I'm 100% determined to use my fevered fury for political action. Let's do this.